You said the wrong thing. You didn't even know it, and that's exactly why you didn't get the job. Welcome back to SolumaInstitute of Tech and Management, the channel where we decode how hiring actually works, not the polished version they sell you in generic interview prep books, but the real psychology, the hidden filters, and the unspoken rules that determine who gets hired and who gets a polite rejection email 3 weeks later. And today, we are going after a question that has quietly destroyed more interview chances than almost any other question on the list, not because it is complicated, but because most people walk into it completely blind, thinking they're being honest, thinking they're being relatable, and unknowingly handing the recruiter every reason they need to pass on them. Why did you leave your last job? Say that question out loud. Let it sit for a moment. Because what sounds like a simple conversational opener is actually one of the most carefully loaded questions in any interview, and the way you answer it in the first 30 seconds tells a recruiter almost everything they need to know about your professionalism, your self-awareness, your loyalty risk, and whether you're going to be a problem they inherit. Stay until the end of this video, because I am going to show you not just what to say, but how to think about this question in a way that completely transforms your answer. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let's start with a trap. And it is a trap that catches almost everyone, including smart, experienced, highly qualified professionals who should absolutely know better. The trap is honesty without strategy. Now, before you close this video thinking I'm about to tell you to lie, stop. I am not. Lying in interviews is not just unethical, it's also unnecessary. The truth is almost always good enough. The problem is not what happened at your last job. The problem is how you're framing it. Here's what most people say when asked why they left their last job. They say, my manager was difficult to work with. They say there was no room for growth. They say the company culture was toxic. They say I was not being paid what I was worth. And here's the devastating part. All of those things might be completely true, every single one. But the moment those words leave your mouth in that interview room, the recruiter's internal alarm system goes off. Not because they think you're wrong, but because their brain immediately starts asking a different set of questions about you. Was this person the problem? Are they going to say the same thing about us in 18 months? Do they have a pattern of conflict? Are they a flight risk? Are they going to cause tension on the team? You answered one question and accidentally created 5 new ones. That's the trap. That's the hidden filter working against you right now. And most people never realize it because nobody ever explained to them what is actually happening on the other side of that desk. Here's the truth about this question that changes everything. Recruiters are not asking why you left your last job because they're curious about your former employer. They don't care about your old company. They care about you. Specifically, they're trying to assess 3 things. They want to know whether you're a stable professional or a flight risk. They want to know whether you handle adversity with maturity or with blame. And they want to know whether your reasons for leaving are going to repeat themselves and make you leave their company too. That's it. That's the entire psychological architecture behind this single question. And when you understand that, your whole approach to answering it shifts completely. You stop narrating your past and you start managing their future concern. Read that again. You stop narrating your past and you start managing their future concern. That's the mindset shift. That's the difference between an answer that closes the conversation and an answer that opens a door to more doubt. The framework I want you to use is what I call the FGF method. Fact, growth, forward. First, state a brief, neutral, professional fact about why you left. Not a complaint, not a story, a fact. Second, frame that fact as something that drove your growth or clarified your direction. Third, pivot forward to what you're seeking now and why this specific opportunity aligns with that. 3 moves: clean, measured, confident. No bitterness, no over-explanation, no rambling. When you use FGF, you don't sound like someone running away from something. You sound like someone moving deliberately towards something. And that distinction, that one psychological reframe, is what separates candidates who get second interviews from candidates who get silence. Now, let me give you 3 sample answers, 3 real, powerful, recruiter-tested responses to why did you leave your last job. Pay attention to the structure. Notice how none of them sound rehearsed, none of them sound defensive, and none of them throw a single person or company under the bus. Sample answer 1. This one is for the professional who left due to limited growth opportunities. I genuinely valued my time at my previous company, and I learned a great deal there, especially in the early years. But I reached a point where I had outgrown the scope of the role. The team structure meant there was limited upward movement, and after an honest conversation with my manager, it became clear that the trajectory I was looking for was not available there in the near term. Rather than become complacent in a role that was no longer challenging me, I made the decision to seek out an environment where I could continue developing at the pace I know I'm capable of. When I came across this opportunity, specifically the scope of responsibility and the growth track you outlined in the job description, it was very clear to me that this was the kind of environment I've been intentionally looking for. Stop and notice what just happened. The candidate acknowledged the previous company positively. They described the situation as a structural reality, not a personal complaint. They showed self-awareness by recognizing their own need for challenge. They demonstrated maturity by having an honest conversation with their manager rather than quietly resenting the situation. And they connected their reason for leaving directly to why they're sitting in this interview. The recruiter's 3 internal questions just got answered without a single alarm going off. Stable professional, handles adversity with maturity. Their reasons for leaving are not going to repeat here because this role offers what the last one didn't. Sample answer number 2. This one is for the professional who left due to a company restructuring, layoff, or organizational change. The company went through a significant restructuring last year, which resulted in my entire department being consolidated. It was a business decision that affected a number of us, and it was not performance-related. My manager actually offered to write me a strong reference, which I'm happy to share. What the experience gave me, unexpectedly, was the clarity to be more intentional about my next move, rather than just taking the first available option. I used that time to reflect seriously on where I wanted to take my career, what kind of environment I thrive in, and what kind of work genuinely excites me. That process of reflection is what led me to this role, and I feel more aligned with this opportunity than I have felt about any position I've interviewed for in a long time. Feel the confidence in that answer. There's no embarrassment, there's no over-explanation. The candidate addressed the layoff directly, immediately removed any performance concern by mentioning the manager's reference, and then masterfully reframed the entire experience as a period of intentional self-discovery that led them here. They didn't survive a layoff, they used it. In the recruiter's mind, that answer signals resilience, self-awareness, and genuine enthusiasm for this specific role. Sample answer number 3. This one is for the professional who left due to a toxic environment, a difficult manager, or a cultural mismatch, the most dangerous territory of all, and yet this answer handles it with precision. I left because I recognized the environment was not set up in a way that allowed me to do my best work. I want to be careful here not to speak negatively about the company, because I genuinely believe they have their strengths. But for me, specifically around how decisions were made and how feedback was given, I found it increasingly difficult to operate at the level I hold myself to. Rather than allow that frustration to affect my performance or my attitude toward the team, I decided it was more professional to make a deliberate exit and find a role where the culture and my working style were more genuinely aligned. In the research I've done on your company, specifically the team structure and the leadership philosophy I read about, I feel strongly that this is an environment where I would not just perform, but genuinely contribute. That answer is surgical. The candidate named the issue without naming anyone. They took ownership by framing it around their own working standards, not the company's failures. They demonstrated emotional intelligence by choosing a deliberate exit over a reactive one. And they ended with research-backed enthusiasm that tells the recruiter, this person didn't just apply everywhere, they chose us specifically. That's exactly what a hiring manager wants to hear. Now, here's the part of this video that most people skip because they think the hard part is over once they know what to say. But knowing what to say and being able to say it under pressure are 2 entirely different skills. And this is where most candidates fall apart even after doing all the right preparation.
The pressure of an interview room does something to your brain. It narrows your thinking, it speeds up your speech, it pulls you toward over-explanation when silence would serve you better, and it adds sentences after your answer is already complete, sentences that unravel everything you just built. So, here's the practical rule I want you to follow. When you finish your FGF answer, stop talking. Full stop. Silence is not weakness in an interview. Silence after a well-constructed answer is confidence. It signals that you said what you meant and you meant what you said. The moment you start adding, I hope that makes sense, or I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, or I just want to be transparent, you have just told the recruiter that you're not sure about your own answer. And if you're not sure, why should they be? Deliver the answer, land it, and let it breathe. There's one more thing I want to add before we close this out, and this is something that almost nobody talks about. If you left a job under difficult circumstances, a conflict, a performance issue, an abrupt departure, and you're worried the recruiter might already know or might find out, don't wait for them to discover it. Address it briefly, frame it with growth, and move forward.
Recruiters respect transparency far more than they respect a polished narrative that later turns out to be incomplete. One honest, mature sentence about a difficult exit does far less damage than the moment a recruiter discovers a gap between your story and your reference check. You are not defined by why you left. You are defined by how you talk about it. That is how you win. Let that land. You are not defined by why you left. You are defined by how you talk about it. That is not just an interview strategy, that is a professional identity. And the candidates who internalize that, the ones who walk into that room knowing that their story is not a liability, but a narrative they own and control, those are the candidates who get the offer. You now have the FGF framework. You have 3 powerful sample answers built for 3 of the most common leaving scenarios. You know the psychological architecture behind the question. You know what the recruiter is really assessing and how to speak directly to those 3 invisible concerns. And you know the one practical rule: stop talking when the answer is done. That alone will make your delivery 10 times more confident. If this video changed how you see that question, hit like right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this content reach every job seeker who needs it and has not found it yet. Drop a comment below. Tell us what industry you are interviewing in. Share your experience with this question, or let us know if you've ever said something in an interview that you immediately regretted. We read every single comment, and we use your experiences to shape the content we create next. And if you are not yet subscribed to Soluma Institute of Tech and Management, this is the moment, because every week we bring you recruiter-level insight, CV strategy, interview psychology, and career frameworks that most people spend years learning the hard way. You do not have to. You walked into this video unsure about a question that has quietly cost a lot of good people a lot of good opportunities. You are walking out with a framework, a mindset, and 3 answers you can make your own. The interview room is not a confessional. It is a stage, and now you know exactly what to perform on it. Go own it.